In this video, Jorge Zuniga, head of product at Tellius, discusses the modern data analytics stack and explains how the Tellius elastic architecture fits into this picture.
I want to start here by discussing where we've been as an industry, right? We saw over the past decade the emergence of big data, explosive growth in terms of data for a variety of reasons, and new types of applications and so forth that led to this. And there's also an unprecedented growth in what was possible in terms of processing this data. So we saw the emergence of machine learning and being able to apply these techniques and algorithms to business problems. But where did that leave us? There's kind of two big buckets I want to point out. On one side, and it kind of depends what your level of sophistication is from a data science perspective. But on one end, we're left with the dashboards and proliferation of these visualization tools where I can see a lot of facts. The question is, what are the right facts, right? Am I seeing, the most interesting pieces of information, the most relevant data that will allow me to take action and have impact on my business? That is the question. So this proliferation kind of took us from, hey, let's visualize this and that, to what am I even looking at? I'm kind of drowning in information here. And then on the other side of the spectrum, data science resources, as we know, are scarce and costly as it is. But let's assume you even have such a team. Now you have a shared resource where you have a backlog of business users, questions and requests that takes time and energy and cost to provide answers to these business constituents. So honestly, we're no closer to getting answers to our big questions than we were before the growth and innovation of the big data era. And really, there's some big questions that I have here in this cartoon. You can see, these questions are: why is something happening in my business? I can see from the dashboard something is changing. Why is it changing? And then what's going to happen next, right? How can I get a little bit more proactive? How can I get insights into what's going to happen and be a little bit more predictive? Now, the modern data stack is part of the answer here, and I'll tease out how Telias fits into this. So from a pure data stack perspective, there's innovation along all different layers. I won't go into every single bit, but I do want to call out some of the most interesting pieces. Consider the data sources. So, we thought we had data warehouses figured out for decades, but given recent examples like Amazon Redshift or let's say Snowflake, cloud-based offerings that now allow you to try out different innovative models of consumption. You can pay as you go. You can leverage their elastic and easily scalable infrastructure for a variety of use cases. Snowflake notably has separated compute and storage. So even in that area, you can now leverage instead of ETL, the ability to load data directly into your target warehouse and perform transformations there, right? So these are things that were not really considered up until recently. So these are features that we'll come back to. We'll talk about in a little bit how this kind of aligns with the Telias architecture as well. Now, I do want to go up the stack a little bit, mention some of the innovation in the data prep and pipeline areas, data ingestion. You have the likes of Fivetran and Segment with their offerings there. And you always have developer, libraries as options for developer resources. But we still have that problem in that analytics and data science layer that I mentioned before. So the solution is the introduction of that top layer. This is where we talk about the consumable decision intelligence layers and all these different components and pieces that make that up. Now, we talked a bit about dashboards, that's there, but it's not just about the facts, right? You want to be able to get the right facts at the right time. So you don't just have the option of configuring and putting time into building these dashboards. You can also explore in an ad hoc manner, right? You have natural language search, which is very familiar to us from the consumer space. You have that ability now in a business context where you can ask business questions using natural language and get answers. In addition to that, maybe you don't know what question to ask. You want to be told or alerted when something interesting has happened. There's been a shift, a change in your data, some kind of an outlier or something interesting. So you have anomaly detection for that. You can detect anomalies automatically and then surface those to your users without them having to do anything. And then you have the ability to perform segmentation from a machine perspective, not a user who's kind of combing through their customer base and setting up segmentations manually or anything like that. We're talking about being able to automatically determine segments based off of any number of features in your data set, and then be able to perform analysis on those segments, whether it's understanding the distinguishing features or being able to perform cohort analysis, whether it's those segments or some other cohorts that are generated by specifying different sets of features and values that way. Of course, I have there from the time perspective the ability to perform trend analysis. Imagine you're performing a natural language search and you ask, what's the revenue look like last year or last quarter? That might lead you to ask, actually, how has this been trending for the last few years, last few quarters, and these kind of analyses that are possible out of the box with this sort of platform, this sort of stack. And this is exactly what Tellius offers. So, sure, Tellius offers different pieces throughout this stack, whether it's data prep capabilities. You do have the ability to create machine learning models and perform some point and click data science. But where the platform really shines is on that top layer. You have not only the ability to do dashboards, but we're talking ad hoc natural language based search, anomaly detection with alerts and a feed, and you're able to perform each of those types of analyses, segmentation, cohort, and trends in a variety of different ways. So what you would get from this picture is the idea that Tellius offers a lot of different pieces of functionality, which is true, but not the whole story. Why? Because we also have a shared architecture. What that means is that not only do you have all of these capabilities, but you can go back and forth between them very easily, because what we have introduced, what we've created, is a single unified runtime layer that makes use of various different engines that are tuned towards different user actions and goals, but can be leveraged seamlessly within the same infrastructure. And this is part of the innovation that we're very excited to talk about. So just to kind of hit this home a little bit from a shared infra perspective, imagine you want to run an ad hoc natural language search that leads you to want to perform some kind of an AI-based insight activity. Most systems, right, traditionally, you're going to have to load that data again, transform it, and run basically two separate sets of operations to achieve your goal. In Tellius, you only load the data and transform it once. Once you do that, you're ready to go. You can run that search, and from there, run an insight, ML-based or AI-based insight. You can go back to the search. You can iterate as many times as you like without having to worry about any additional latency or overhead, because you're actually sharing the same infrastructure when you're doing this. And to really hit this home, I want to talk about our elasticity, because those benefits from the shared infrastructure also come into the elastic use cases. So you're able to, in the traditional sense, again, you're running a natural language search, or you want to run an AI-based insight, you're going to have to probably leverage some base infrastructure and then scale that up elastically. And then you're going to do it again, right, for your AI-based insight activity. With Tellius, right, and this is just one example, but once you've kind of started scaling elastically and you have these elastic units available based off of some user action, some user goal, you're running an ad hoc search, let's say, those elastic units are available to you now. So you can actually use those same elastic units, whether it's running an insight, right, creating machine learning models, or these kinds of things. So again, this is a huge benefit to single users as it is, but you can imagine this being even more beneficial when you have concurrency come into the picture, and the ability to perform these different actions and go back and forth. So we're very excited to offer this and talk about this. You're going to see some of this in the demo from Socket. And I'd like to end here with this picture on how Tellius fits into the modern data landscape. No longer should you be worried or feel like you're constrained by your level of sophistication from a data science or business perspective. We're able to help you bridge that gap.